Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're digging into one of America's most famous legends, Paul Revere's Midnight Ride. Most of us picture it like a movie scene. One heroic rider on a horse, shouting a dramatic line, and waking up an entire countryside. But the real story? It was messier, quieter, and honestly, a lot smarter. By the spring of 1775, Boston was a pressure cooker. British troops were all over the city. Colonial leaders were being watched, and everyone knew something big was about to happen. The main fear wasn't a random battle. It was a targeted strike. The British were planning to march out, seize colonial military supplies from nearby towns, and maybe even arrest key Patriot leaders. So, the colonists did what you do when you see trouble coming. They built a system. Not a fancy one with phones or radios, but a real, human network. They had people watching the roads, riders ready to carry messages, and local leaders prepared to mobilize their militias at a moment's notice. They had pre-planned routes, backup plans, and signals. Paul Revere was a crucial part of this network. He wasn't just some guy who decided to go for a ride that night. He was a trusted messenger who had done this before. He knew the people, he knew the routes, and he understood that while speed was important, reliability was everything. That's why the whole one rider saved the day idea just doesn't hold up. The plan was never about one person. It was built on redundancy. If one rider got stopped, another could get through. If one route was blocked, there was another way. This is where William Dawes comes in. He's way less famous, but he rode out of Boston that same night on a different route to spread the warning. It wasn't for drama, it was just good strategy. And what about the famous lanterns? The signal 1 if by land, 2 if by sea was a key part of the plan. It was a quick way for the network to confirm how the British troops were moving out of Boston. Were they marching over land or crossing the water to start their march from the other side? The signal wasn't the entire alarm, just a quick confirmation for the people waiting. Now for that famous line, "The British are coming." Revere almost certainly never yelled that. First off, shouting something like that would have been a great way to get arrested. This was a stealth operation, not a parade. Second, most colonists still considered themselves British subjects. The urgent message wasn't about a foreign invasion. It was more practical. The regular troops are on the move, and we need to prepare. So, his warnings were likely quiet, specific, and delivered directly to the right people in the right houses. Here's another mythbuster. Revere never actually completed his ride. He was stopped and detained by a British patrol. But the message still got through. Why? Because the system didn't depend on him alone. This is where another rider, Samuel Prescott, becomes so important. He joined Revere and Dawes along the way and ended up being the one to carry the warning forward after they were stopped. The network adapted in real time, exactly as a strong system should, and the alarm didn't just spread by horseback. Once a town was alerted, their local systems kicked in. Riders passed the message to other riders. Church bells rang, drums called the militia to gather, and people knocked on doors. The warning spread like a chain reaction because these communities had already practiced how to respond. The speed of this response led to the confrontations at Lexington and Concord, the sparks that ignited the Revolutionary War. It proved that the colonies could coordinate and act together. So why does history seem to forget the network and focus on just one man? Because stories love a single hero. A complex, coordinated system is harder to celebrate. It doesn't fit neatly into a portrait or a poem. So, over time, the story was simplified into a single, inspiring hero narrative. Paul Revere was brave, and he was important, so he became the symbol for the entire operation. The best way to remember Paul Revere isn't as a lone superhero, but as a keynote in a brilliant communication system that actually worked. It was a system built by people who knew that you don't survive a crisis with one dramatic moment. You survive with preparation, coordination, and backup plans. That's the real story of the Midnight Ride. Not one voice shouting in the dark, but an entire network waking up and showing the world what it could do. Thanks for watching. If you found this interesting, hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into history. See you next time.